Hey everybody, if you don't know me, I'm going into my second year of being a high school esports coach at the high school that I teach at, or I'm going into my 7th year of teaching. Last year, through the advocacy of a student and an administration that was incredibly supportive, we started a high school esports team, which actually became really popular among high schools, especially in my state, in Maine, during the pandemic, where our Principals Association, which is the association that runs varsity athletics in the state, adopted Playversus, which is one of the many companies that runs high school esports leagues. So my school decided, under the Maine Principals Association's recommendation, to adopt esports as a varsity sport. Now, whether we should treat esports like a sport, that's up for debate. I'm sure the comments are already lighting up, but I'm telling you this because my school does. They even are able to receive varsity letters in esports. A lot being partially through my advocacy in trying to normalize esports in the school. During that first year, I made the executive decision that we were going to be playing Rocket League, because Rocket League only required 3 people to be starters, and I was really worried that nobody would really come out for it, especially since a lot of people were staying home from school instead of coming to school, again because of the pandemic. I had a bunch of people show up that had never really played Rocket League before. I taught them how to play Rocket League. We practiced every day after school. In the fall season, we went 4-4, and in the spring season, we went 3-5. Unfortunately, we ended the spring season with only like 5 or 6 people on the team, which is one of my biggest fears, is popularizing it and trying to get more people to come out. But also, Rocket League wasn't super popular at the school, and wasn't really even popular among the people that were on the esports team. They were just on the team to be on the esports team. And frankly, I didn't really enjoy Rocket League as much as I do other competitive games. It just wasn't my style. Unfortunately, our state only offers 2 games for the state league through Playversus, which we have to go through because of the Maine Principals Association: League of Legends and Rocket League. So I held it to a vote at the end of the year for, again, like the 5 or 6 people that were still on the team, on if they wanted to continue to play Rocket League and keep developing their skills, or if they wanted to make the switch to League of Legends. And unanimously, they voted for League of Legends, saying that they'll enjoy it more, and they know of more people at the school that play League of Legends as opposed to play Rocket League. So here's hoping more people come out. And when I made that vote, I was pretty excited because I enjoy League of Legends. I've played a little bit of it, and I'm a gamer. I love learning games, I love playing games. Unfortunately, most of my MOBA experience was through Heroes of the Storm, which is probably the least complex MOBA in existence. Now, before you say, "What are you doing coaching when you never played before? Oh no, yeah!" I think it's important to understand a few things, especially about high school esports. 1, I work at a small school in the middle of nowhere. If I did not advocate for the team or volunteer to coach it, they wouldn't be allowed to have it. The same is true for the wrestling team at the high school, the same is true for the baseball team, the same is true for the soccer team. If a person didn't step up and volunteer to coach it and advocate for it, it just wouldn't exist. That's the reality of small rural schools. There are very few adults that are willing to go out of their way to do these extracurriculars. And frankly, if there are no adults interested in that extracurricular, it doesn't happen. And as of now, I'm the only one in the area that's volunteered to do it. And I'm doing it because I would have killed for this opportunity when I was in high school. And if somebody that's more qualified than me in the video game or helping kids learn socially and emotionally, then absolutely I'll step aside. But I'll still want to help out because it's fun. The second thing to understand is that a vast majority of the kids that are going to come out will have never played before. And just like Rocket League, if I can just get these kids to understand like their roles by the end of the season, I'm going to consider that a win. And again, just like Rocket League, even though I had people come in and had never played before, as long as they put in the work and listen to me, we're going to be better than a lot of other high school teams. And frankly, better off than a lot of other high school teams, because a lot of other high school teams don't have a coach. And it's more of a club after school, throw some kids in a room, play the games. Again, at least that's what happened when we played Rocket League. And the last thing to understand is that I'm willing to put in the work. I spent all summer studying and playing the game because, again, as the wrestling coach at the school as well, I want to win. And through that wrestling coaching, through coaching Rocket League the year before, I learned a lot. Now, I'm really glad that League of Legends was not the first game I esports coached. But I am really glad to be playing a game I thoroughly enjoy, and I've learned to enjoy over the summer. And for people that are coming over from my TikTok, I've made a lot of TikToks about being in high school esports coach, and it's been really cool sharing that with a lot of people online. So after the high school esports team voted on League of Legends, I now had to panic learn League of Legends in like 4 months. So here's that story of me panic learning, what I learned, and how I'm going to be running my tryouts in 2 weeks when the season starts. The first struggle for me when I sat down to learn League of Legends was learning about the roles. What was expected of each role, what type of champion can be played in each role. And surprisingly, one of my struggles really early on was figuring out the map objectives and when you should be going to do those map objectives. Again, because I'm used to Heroes of the Storm, which is a lot more of a hero brawler than a MOBA, the map objectives were so important that whenever they popped up, the whole team would go there. And rather than, you know, the brawler or tank being on top, the marksman and the support being on bottom, whatever being on mid, jungler, in Heroes of the Storm, it was more important for you to like make sure you have a tank, make sure you have a healer / support, you know, make sure you have some sort of crowd control character, make sure you have like a melee and a ranged DPS. It was more important to diversify than having really specific roles for each role. And by the way, I'm going to be relating a lot of what I'm saying to Heroes of the Storm because that is my only intense MOBA experience. But reading about all these roles, originally, I thought I was going to be jungling. I really thought I would enjoy it. From what I was reading about, it was pretty self-sufficient, and you only really interact with other things when you're going to gank, which meant that if you were successful, you're a hero. However, my first experience in that role was pretty bad. And as I read more about the responsibilities of that role, the more I realized it was so much more than leveling up and ganking. And advice I got for some friends that played was to try out support. So I did. My first game ever was support, and my third game total with League of Legends, I got my first S on Lulu. So I thought because I did so well with it, I would continue learning support, but I wanted to explore other roles as well, especially since you have to queue up as 2 roles. There's not a lot of story with me playing mid. Through many games in mid, I could not find a champ I was remotely good at or I liked. On bottom, I discovered I really enjoyed Tristana in Misfortune, though I was really bad with Tristana, but it was still really fun. And finally, I was able to try top. My immediate understanding of top was that you're in your own little world, leveling up and watching out for ganks, and then you were overpowered and overleveled for mid-game and late-game teamfights. I really liked the idea of the isolatedness of it all. Plus, I enjoy being a tank and melee DPS in other games, so I figured I'd enjoy this one. And my understanding of the role wasn't totally off. I still wasn't all the way there. I started trying out a bunch of different champs on top, mostly Darius, which I was pretty bad at, but I enjoyed him. Eventually, through trying out these other champions, I discovered my now main set. In playing most of those 2 characters and occasionally exploring other ones, I found Wukong, which is the first character I felt I really understood, like what I was supposed to be doing with him. And while I played all those 3 characters, I found I kept losing horribly to Mordekaiser, but doing pretty well against most other things. So since if you can't beat him, join him. And I started playing Mordekaiser. As time went on, I realized I was only okay with Mordekaiser, and I felt pretty good about Wukong, and I found myself just dominating people with Set, especially in the early game. So top became my main role, Set became my main, Wukong became my backup, and Mordekaiser became my counter champion. I also discovered I didn't really enjoy support. It just didn't fall along with the playstyle I wanted to play. I wanted to kill. I wanted to feel powerful. But I was still seeking a champion in another role that I loved, which basically meant that my secondary role was going to have to be bottom, because it was the only other role that I had any champions that I remotely liked, since I definitely wasn't playing jungle or mid. But I was still seeking a champion I loved in this role, and I basically went through all of my level up games, not being able to find one. About the time I played my first ranked game, I had unlocked Ashe, which was going to be the next bottom character I was going to try. And in my very first ranked game ever, I decided to play her, because I'm a psycho. We won it, and I felt really good playing her. As I continued to play her, she became my main on bot, with Tristana and Misfortune as my backup encounters. I continued grinding ranked and learning about the game, occasionally with stream viewers and occasionally with friends. And I really learned to thoroughly enjoy the game. Now, during this time when I wasn't playing, I continued really actively learning about the game because remember, I'm going to be coaching, not playing. I did this by watching a ton of normal streams, studying tournament coverage to understand how different team play is compared to like solo queue play. And I watched a ton of Nice, partially selfishly to improve my own skill and like awareness in solo queue. But also I really found his coaching videos super informative and fun. So I've learned a lot, put a ton of time in all summer, and I feel pretty ready to bring everything I learned to the high school team that I coach. I also found out, partially through the summer, that the district decided to pay me this year, where I was volunteering last year. And so I started taking it even more seriously. And I don't think I really stress how much total time in I put between talking to friends about the game, playing the game itself, studying the game, watching videos about the game, thinking about the game. Because I really, really wanted to be the best coach I could be, and it's complex. So using all that information, I came up with a tryout plan for when school starts. First off, during that first week, I plan on having an open lab for people that want to come in. Where if you've never played the game before, you have to show up to at least one to make sure your account's all set up for tryouts, or to just come in and chat and play the game, and maybe see what it's all about. Then I would have a week of tryouts, where beforehand they have to fill out their tryout form, where I ask for their name, their grade, their current rank if they had one, and a reminder to make sure you come to the open labs if you are not ranked or you don't have your account, and designate the roles they want to try out for, including the champions they're comfortable with in those roles, while they mark their primary and secondary role. During these open labs, I'll be helping out new players to kind of understand the game as much as I can. Unfortunately for tryouts, I need to cut the team down to 12 players no matter how many people show up, and hopefully I need to cut it down to 12 players, because that's the total amount of gaming computers we have at school. My normal policy is that if you don't make the team, you're welcome to stay on as manager if you would like, because I definitely need help. And if somebody doesn't show up for practice, you can jump in and play for them. And if someone happens to quit or fail off the team, then you get to take their place on the team, because I'd rather have someone that's devoted to the team and that's there than number 13 eating chips at home. It's also there that we have to discuss, and I had to do this with Rocket League too, that it is a competitive team. It's not a gaming club. We're there to practice, we're there to learn, and we're there to win, which sometimes is really difficult for people to understand. Now, when I originally asked for their rank on that tryout form, the point was to give me a starting point, to understand where they're at just from a objective perspective, and to make sure I don't put together matchups where one person just doesn't get to play the game, they get blown out so hard. During these tryouts, I'll be looking for gameplay ability and execution, game knowledge, shot calling and communication, and sportsmanship. Because remember, we're representing our school. And also during these tryout sessions, I make sure not to coach them. I'll be coaching them at practice, but during tryouts, I want to see what they know. And even if they're playing the game totally incorrectly, maybe it'll give me a chance to see who the leaders are and who tries to get people to play the game the way you're supposed to play it. One thing I will do is step in and make sure they're playing champions that make sense for the role they're in. First, we're going to be starting with a 5v5 draft within the room, where I put people in the roles that they're trying out for, dividing the team up as close skill-wise as possible, and they play, and I watch and take notes on it. Now, if there's more than 10 people, we'll be playing obviously multiple of these games, and the people that do better will just stay in and play in those extra games, especially if it's not divisible by 10, people will be overlapping. And the plan is to watch and see who's better, see who does those 4 things better. In addition to that, during the tryouts, I plan on doing a 1 versus 1 tournament in each role, where you must play a champion for that role, and the winner of each game is determined by the first person to get 100 minion kills, the first person to kill the opposing champion, or the first person to destroy a tower. And the point of this is that I'm able to see their gameplay ability very, very purely, and it just gives me more information when I pick the team. Now, it's very likely supports won't be participating in that 1v1 tournament because it doesn't really tell me anything, because that's not what supports are trying to do. In a perfect world, I would have every combination of supports and bots, since it's a 2-person lane, doing many, many different tournaments with each combination just so I could see any common denominator. But if too many people are trying out for those roles, that's just totally unreasonable. So it'll likely be 1v1 with bottoms, and supports just won't participate in that tournament. Then after I get that gameplay ability rankings from each role because of the tournaments, I'm then able to watch the 5v5 games for the other things and the gameplay ability. And we'll play as many 5v5 games as we need to figure out who my 12 best players are. And since the Tuesday after tryouts is our first preseason game, also to figure out who our first lineup of starters are. again, in each role. And we'll keep repeating those until a decision is made. Now once tryouts are over, which will hopefully only last that week, the plan is to get everybody in our esports Discord server, which we have and maintain, and use for voice chatting, and getting messages out when we need to. During practices, we'll be playing a lot of just like 5-person games, making sure we play with the people in the room, working on plays and being coordinated, and figuring out the flow of the game with the other people on our team. In addition to that, we're going to be doing some drills. For every role besides jungle, and with bottom and support in the same lane, some drills that we're going to be doing is first to 100 CS in the practice tool, first to down a tower in the practice tool, and for the jungle, doing timed clears of the jungle, and different types of clears depending on what we end up liking. We'll be doing a lot of 1v1s between our varsity player and our backup player in each position, and 2v2s again with bot and support. With the exception being the day before the game, I'm going to make sure that the people that are playing in that game, my starters, will have the entire practice to play together so that their communication and their teamwork is as top-notch as possible. For viewing, I plan on there being a rope behind the people that are playing in our esports room so you can watch them live over their shoulder. Parents and students can come in and actually see them. Also, similarly to last year, which I did with Rocket League, I'll be streaming the games so that other students and family at home can watch. Again, especially if the pandemic's still going. The plan is also for the stream to be played in a room in the school, and if it's going to be anything like last year, there'll be a small crowd to cheer them on between all of these things, just like traditional sports, which is really exciting. I'm super excited for the season, and if you made it this far in the video, you must be too. I just hope people show up for tryouts, and I really hope that the work I've put into all this will show on the team. Let me know if there's any questions you have for me about being an esports coach, and please put them in the comments. If there are enough of them, I would be happy to make a Q&A video on it, and I'll be sure to let you guys know how the season goes. I might even upload highlights to the YouTube channel. If you enjoyed this video, you should check me out on other social medias. I'd really appreciate it. On Discord, on TikTok, on Instagram, and especially on Twitch. I stream pretty much every day there. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm so excited for the season. Bye-bye.